If you could describe our world today, how would you? Connected, dynamic, challenging, advanced.
We are in a time of change that has never happened before. Pace of change is faster than we can adapt. Everything about how we work, live, and play is being disrupted. I talk a lot about disruption and what makes a disruptor, and it's about how you respond to disruption. If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done.
Jay, we are standing at a very huge turning point right now. AI can either divide us further or help humanity rise. And the people with wisdom, experience, and purpose may have a bigger role to play than they realize. What is your take on that?
Both will happen. AI will not be distributed evenly is the easy way to answer it. We'll have tremendous medical advancements. Most forms of cancer will be cured in the decade. Heart disease will be able to youthen our organs. You'll see people living regularly to 130, 140, 150 years old. At the same time, you're going to see massive job loss. 10, 20% of all jobs globally. And for the first time, knowledge workers will be displaced. If your job involves sitting at a computer all day, the computer doesn't need you. So lawyers, accountants, middle management, anybody that prepares data, documents. For years, we told people to take STEM classes and learn to code. AI does a better job. When you put AI into a physical robot, the reason why we're making all these humanoid robots is every job was designed for a human body. So now AI will replace blue collar as well. Autonomous trucks are now going on the Autobahn in Germany. Number one job in the US is a driver. So truck drivers, Uber drivers, those disappear. But we're also talking construction. We're talking in a restaurant, clerical, almost limitless. And for the first time in our 14,000 years of civilization, we're not the smartest kid on the block. And our society is not preparing for that change. Our government and rules are 20 years behind. Now, I'm optimistic because it gives each person a level of power that they've never had before to build businesses, to solve scientific problems. And that's the hope. In the bad hands, every technology amplifies good and bad.
Actually, I think about 2 months ago, the autonomous cars got a go in the Netherlands. And right now, here in Belgium, they're working on it. And I think it will be somewhere in summer or maybe right after summer that autonomous cars will be allowed. I'm very well aware that, for instance, truck drivers, and I cannot even think about how many truck drivers, on the globe will lose their jobs, and taxi drivers. And it's just mind-boggling. And I think it's absolutely true that governments in any country is preparing for this or even really aware of what's going to happen between now and 5-6 years, which is really very close.
And that's why I'm trying to empower people. I can't do government's work for them. I can't solve for everybody. But by showing people how they can use AI as a force multiplier, not as a substitute for Google, how you don't need to hire somebody to make your web page. You don't need to hire somebody to make your sales funnel or your marketing campaign or your graphics or your photography. So you now have the ability to be a solo entrepreneur. You don't have to raise the money that you used to have to raise to employ people. You can get into market much quicker. You can reach. You're a click away from 6 billion people. So you now have, for the first time, a self-made billionaire in his teenage years. Let that sink in for a second. So it doesn't take years to achieve something or build something. And you can build businesses that also do good for the planet. And so the second act advantage, I'm trying to get everybody that's being pushed out of the workforce to realize that may be a good thing. Take the blinders off and take control of your own destiny and solve world problems. I don't believe entrepreneurs sell things. They solve things. If you solve for 5 people, you have friends, solve for 1 million, become wealthy, solve for 1 billion, and you change humanity. And I've spent most of my career inventing technologies that now billions of people use. Yes, some people use them to do bad things, but that's inevitable. I mean, the electric light bulb, let us stay up and read at night and make an electric chair. People have to get involved. So in the second act advantage, to take the fear of AI away, the book comes with a free AI tool so that you can learn how to use AI. You can plan out your future. You can get all your answers. And it wasn't created with some corporate agenda. No one's gathering your data. No one's trying to talk you into using this or that. And there's no excuse to not be engaged. So the way to look at it, yes, there are many people whose jobs will be displaced. But is that job what they were really put on this planet to do? Is that really what their calling was, what they really to spend their time? Or was that what they ended up in as the only way that they could see as a means to support themselves and their family? So if you can give people the tools to have a better life, how many people would keep that job? If you look at Ozzy Osbourne, I was in the music business. Ozzy, with his last dying breath, did a concert, though he was riddled in pain. Why? Because he loved what he did. I don't think a truck driver is taking his last hours on earth and saying, let me drive one more mile. So just because you're losing a job doesn't mean that you're losing your essence. You need to find a purpose. Number one killer is not smoking, not bad diet or lack of exercise. It's not finding a purpose. And if you have that reason to get up every day, that will drive you. You have a better chance of surviving almost any cataclysm. So it's a message of hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I recommend people, and now that I finished your book, The Second Act Advantage, I really absolutely love it. And this is a book to read again. That book is ageless.
Well,
because I think that you cover so much.
The reason why it's called second act, the second act doesn't mean you're retiring. If you were running your whole childhood and you make it to the Olympics at 18 and you come in 5th place, your Olympic career is over. Your second act starts. If you got out of high school or college, your whole life was that structured education. Your second act starts. If you got out of the military, if you were a policeman for 20 years. Most importantly, I'm trying to reach those who didn't choose to have their second act start. You just got laid off. Your whole career, your whole field. You spent years learning to be a great computer programmer. You were told that's a safe, great job. Big companies will hire you. AI does it better. You were told to go to law school. 80-90% of lawyers will be replaced by AI. Much of what's done in offices today, clerical, marketing, all of your accounting functions, those are no longer professions. And that's what people have to get used to. And we've seen this before. The difference is capital and capitalism used to be deploying capital on labor and making more than it costs you to have the labor. Well, the cost of labor is now going to be, for most things, zero. No one's coming to save you. No one's creating jobs for you. So you have to take that onto yourself. And we have to change our educational system. We've been teaching the same way for the past 100 years to create employees, to read enough, know enough math, you'll paid enough to show up, not enough to care. When we're not teaching creativity, we're not teaching problem solving, we're not teaching to look at where are there gaps that we can now fix and improve lives. I got out of college buying into the system that we were told. Go to good school, get good grades, and live happily ever after. And when I graduated, it was a recession. No one was hiring. So I had no choice but to figure out how to do it on my own. More and more people will be facing that. And that makes for a better world because more people will be building innovative solutions. And solutions don't have to be something complicated. In my other books, I talk about amazing thing. A flight attendant was tired of looking in her purse to find her keys. So she made a little clip that goes inside a purse. She sold $1 million worth of them the first year. You have kids in junior high and high school winning science prizes, not with any scientific help, but creating products that are saving lives of millions of people because they're just using AI to ask questions that nobody asked. That's how we should be educating.
I think that when people read your book, so many ideas, what we can do with our lives, how we can fill it in, how you really inspire because you actually say what's missing and what we all could do. And I'm so 100% sure that when people read the book, they will find themselves in that book and think, oh, I never saw it this way, or I never thought about that. And on top of it, for people that are a little bit AI strange or not used to working with it, you provide and say so many tools that there are at our fingertips right now.
They think AI, a computer, I don't know how to do this. And here's the way to look at it. You buy a piece of IKEA furniture and you sit there looking at those diagrams, trying to figure out how to put the thing together, and you get frustrated and you go mad. Most of us can't follow directions. It's everything's complicated in life. Not AI. Because if you don't know how to do anything with AI, you just ask it. And you ask it to break it down to baby steps. It'll walk you through anything you want to do. A kid just built a fusion reactor with no scientific training, okay? Just step by step. There's a term called vibe coding. I hate the term because it says coding and that sounds intimidating. It just means instead of learning to program, talk to your computer or type, whichever you want to do, and tell it what you want. I'm a photographer. I want to start a website for my photography. I saw this site, this guy's thing. I'd like a site like that. 30 seconds later, you have that site with all your pictures that were on your computer. And you go, oh, I wanted this one up front. I want this one there. That's literally what you say. And so once you realize and get past that intimidation, it becomes very empowering. It becomes a force multiplier. I know nothing about marketing. Ask AI. So that's the steps. But here's where, especially your audience is in Europe, and I've spent a lot of time running European companies. Europeans are used to a safety net. They made choices with their government and have wonderful social services. You're not going to anymore, because here's what's happening. If the workers are now robots, then workers aren't paying into the system. So there are no pensions. There are no unemployment because there's nobody paying taxes. There's no universal basic income coming to save. So your social services are going to fall apart at the same time that other countries are suffering from climate change and having mass migrations into Europe. You better start learning to be more entrepreneurial. Now, I work in California. I've raised $1 billion in Silicon Valley. I've built billion-dollar companies. I'm surrounded by people that think this way. It's not alien here to say, I don't want to get a job. Why would I, work for somebody else? That the concept, when you stop and think about it, makes no sense. The parable that I like to tell is a young kid gets his job at a big company, gets out of college, shows up early, and he sees the boss coming in a brand new Ferrari, beautiful red Ferrari, shiny. And the kid's eyeing it, and the boss goes, do you like that car? And the kid goes, yeah. The boss says, if you work really, really hard all year, I'll be able to buy another one next year. So you're either working for your dreams or you're working for somebody else's. When did you stop having dreams? When did you stop believing that you can change the world? I grew up, my dad made sandwiches. If you would have told me dozens of friends would become billionaires with a B, I had never met a millionaire. I didn't know what people did in an office. No one taught me any of this. Will you fail? Absolutely. But failing is part of the process. Because when you fail, you don't end up where you started. You either learn or you earn. Either way, you're propelled forward. All your big high-tech businesses fail. All your major founders fail. So the faster that you can fail, the faster you get to success. And with AI, you can launch businesses with zero capital. My last book before The Second Act Advantage, I took a homeless immigrant. Came from Europe, he was homeless, mentored him 1 day a week for a year.
Yeah.
Gave him no cash, no business contacts. He had to start a business that took zero capital. Spoiler alert, if you're reading Future Proofing You, he went from homeless to self-made millionaire in under a year. And it spells it out. I've not met somebody who can't do this. I've met many that are afraid to try. That I can't overcome. You only need two things to be successful in this world: insight and perseverance. Insight can be learned. I don't write books to make money. I'm not trying to make money off of people. I'm trying to help people. Books are my way to get the knowledge out there. I've heard from readers in 140 countries. And that's what irks me on, because I don't know how the knowledge gets there, but knowledge changes people's lives. When you see what you're able to do, you're unstoppable. With that young man that I mentored, his whole life he was told he's less than, he's not worthy, he can't achieve, he can't do this. By the end of his first month, when he had made tens of thousands of dollars, he could have flown around the world without an airplane. He was unstoppable, because once you unlock human potential, it doesn't go back in the box.
What do you say to people that lack the confidence to even start, that are thinking, oh my God, my life is over? Because, you know, you have people that really lack the confidence to start anything,
So
that think that are not entrepreneurial.
So if you're that person, most likely that person is intimidated to tell somebody what they don't know. They have social anxiety. They're embarrassed. They feel, if I don't know something, if I make a mistake, what will people think of me? Okay. Talk to AI. AI doesn't judge. AI doesn't go, hey, idiot, why'd you ask that question? AI says, here's the answer. Would you like this piece of information? So it will lead you down a path to even ask questions, that I don't. I use it to bounce ideas off of. Wilbur and Orville Wright made the airplane. Did it take two of them? No. But it took one of them to tell the other one, that's a stupid idea. What about this? We all want to have a partner. Now you have a partner that doesn't want any money, doesn't want any equity, doesn't take vacation days. And so when I wrote The Second Act Advantage, I wanted to be the definitive book to help people at this time in history when they so need help. And so when I finished it, and I was chairman of one of the AI companies, I uploaded the book to 6 different AIs, and I said, what's missing? What needs to be in this book to make it the best possible book? And they all came back with a bunch of stuff, most of which I didn't put in the book because I didn't think it was necessary. But one of them came up with an idea. They go, wow, that's a blind spot. That didn't occur to me. And that became a chapter in the book that I wouldn't have gotten to on my own. We all can't see everything from all perspectives. AI can. And you can ask it to see, how would a young person look at this? How would an old person? How would this play out in Belgium? How would this work in the culture of South America? And you can get those answers. When I say instantly, I get surprised often by the quality and improvement, because the AI that you use today is as dumb as it will ever be. And it is getting exponentially better hourly, daily, monthly. We're only about 1,000 days into consumers having AI. People forget that. Every job description's changed. Your college degrees are worthless. All this has changed. Humans aren't designed for that rate of change. This is faster than Darwinian rates. Organizations, big institutions, governments, big corporations, they're deer in headlights. But that's your opportunity. Because while the big guys are spending $1 trillion on data centers to see who will own the future, they're leaving tens and hundreds of millions of dollars of opportunities that they're not even looking after because they're chasing the trillions. My career has been picking up the crumbs left behind by Microsoft and Apple and Google and all the companies that I've worked with that hire me, because they open the doors for all this possible. So what problem do you have in your life? Could AI solve it? Does somebody else also have that problem? One of my favorite examples that was in my first book, Disrupt You. A guy's taking his medicine one morning and the phone rings. Has the conversation, gets off the phone and goes, oh, did I take my pill? If I took my pill and I take another one, that's not good for me. If I didn't take my pill, that's not good for me. This is a problem. He thinks about it for a while, takes a little cheap kid's watch, attaches it. Every time you open the cap, it says, oh, you opened it 3 minutes ago or you opened it 8 hours ago. It's called timer cap. Sold millions and millions of them in pharmacies. Then he added Bluetooth. So now I know whether grandma took her medicine and I can call her and remind her. It comes out of just defining those moments, right? Nobody ever wanted to buy a 5 centimeter drill bit. What they wanted was a 5 centimeter hole. They bought the drill bit to solve the problem. That's all you have to do. And if you don't have any problems, I can't help you. Send me your address. I want to live where you live. But if you live in the real world, you don't need confidence because you're now the boss. You're in charge. You'll figure it out and you will grow. And the journey of life is about growth and self-actualization. If you have the same opinions and are doing the same things that you were doing 5 years ago, what a waste of 5 years. And if you don't start changing now, you're not going to be any different 5 years from now, except the sooner you start working on your future, the longer you have to enjoy it. That young man that I mentored, in my mind, I wanted him to hit $1 million in a year. So I said, daytime is for prospecting, reaching out, trying to get business. Nighttime's for doing the work. You're not going to watch TV. You're not going to go to the bar. You're not going to date. You're not going to have any work-life balance. And for 1 year, he worked harder than most people are willing to. So for the rest of his life, he can live the way most people aren't able to. I think that's a fair trade. I realized when everybody started becoming billionaires around me that I have something that billionaires don't. I have enough. My needs are met. I'm not doing anything to make money. I'm trying to solve the problems. The corporate jobs that I take, the chairmanships, are to shine light on a startup that is solving major problems, taking pesticides out of food. You know, I can't say no if it can change the world. And so that's a lot more rewarding than more circles in a bank account. I don't understand why everybody doesn't think this way, but I'm trying to get them to.
Yeah, I think that's a very important topic. I mean, what can you do with 5 Ferraris in your garage or whatever? Because they're, we're very close to have the first trillionaire. And then I think, how much do you need?
So let me explain $1 trillion, okay? Because people don't understand how much $1 trillion is, okay? Pretend with me, no offense to anybody, I'm not making fun of any religion or institution, just going back to pretend that we go back to the manger in Bethlehem. Little baby Jesus, he's really cute. I show up, I'm number 4 in line. There's 3 wise men and there's idiot Jay. But Jay brings a very special gift. I'm going to give baby Jesus $1 million a day. Every single day. To now. That's through the Roman era, that's through the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, the Enlightenment, the rest of it. We're into the 21st century, 2026. $1 million for over 2,000 years, every single day. And that just gets you to about $1 trillion. It's an insane amount of money.
Wow, that's an amazing way to frame it.
Now,
that's an amazing way to frame it. Yeah, thank you.
In the world, would you want that for? Unless you were on a power kick and you want to control, And there's an interesting thing. A decade or so ago, when billionaires started getting bad PR, they came up with the greatest PR press release of all time. They set up a pledge to give 90-something% of their money away when they die, right? And 317 billionaires signed the pledge, and 300 of them have reneged. Why? Because she knew it wasn't true. If they so believed that they wanted to help people, why would they wait till they're dead to help somebody? There's nothing more rewarding than when you help someone. If you want to find joy in life, it comes from helping others. Absolutely. And in the Second Act Advantage, I share stories of people that have nothing and yet change the world by their actions. So it doesn't take an army. Matter of fact, your favorite novel, your favorite movie, your favorite song, your favorite painting, your favorite building, your favorite anything was just done by somebody that didn't quit, that was stubborn and persevered. That's what you have in you. I found it very easily. I had 2 sons when I was young. I looked down at them. I didn't have a job. I wasn't going to let them down. And that drove me to running corporations and being a NASDAQ CEO and everything that you're supposed to enjoy. Secret, I love starting companies. I hate big companies. They're just too many people doing nothing. But when my kids grew up and they were successful and well-rounded and better adjusted than I am, they didn't need me. They love me, but they don't need me. So now what is my purpose? And I was like, floundering. And I said, you know what? Maybe I did learn something on this journey. They don't teach this in school. They don't teach success. And I'm not trying to be a coach and monetize and tell people to walk on coals and go to, I'm not selling crystals and tree hugging, okay? So I went and I started teaching at the largest engineering school, university in the United States. They paid me $16 a class. The students were paying $24,000 to attend the class in their units. And I paid $20 to park. But I had students make $100 million and donate money to the school. Once I realized that it could be taught, then I wrote a book, and I really thought that was it. I write the one book, go back, live my private life. But the book changed me, and this is why being an entrepreneur will change you. I thought a book was a monologue. The guru on high sharing wisdom to the masses, okay? But it turns out in our interconnected world, it's a dialogue. And when I hear from readers, and I call them love letters, I get these emails all the time from Pakistan, from Nigeria, from Brazil, of how the blinders came off. They did the work. They're giving me the credit. I didn't do it. They changed their own lives. I just kind of maybe pointed them towards their North Star. That's empowering. And I got this one email, and I asked permission. I put it in one of my books because it moved me to tears, and I get choked up saying it. A woman wrote me. She was 50 years old. She had started a business, and she lost all her money, and she was despondent, and she decided to kill herself. And she decided to call her daughter, who was in her 20s, grown, and say goodbye right before she was going to kill herself. And her daughter did something that shocked the mom. Her daughter laughed at her. She goes, "No, I'm going to kill." "How are you laughing?" She goes, "You're going to kill yourself for money? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." And her daughter drove over and gave her my book. And this woman was writing me to say she now has a second act, a new business, and thanks for saving my life. That's the power you have to connect. Find your purpose. Find that joy. The second act advantage lays it out as an instruction manual that anyone can follow. And if you can't follow because I didn't do a good job, it comes with a digital version of me. You get me as a private mentor that you can ask any question, and it'll walk you through it. I can't live in Belgium on my pension. Where could I live a better quality of life where it's warm for less money, right? Where's my visa good for? How do I apply for these things? All of these programs exist. And so I put a team on it that are working to make sure that people get up to date. There's always going to be new AI tools. The book's out of date the second it's in your hand. Now you have a way that it'll never go out of date. And it's an amazing experience to be able to have a co-pilot to your career. And that's what you have. So you don't need the confidence. I'm giving you digital confidence to go along with you. When you go, I don't know, what should I do? Digital Jay's there.
Wonderful. Very beautiful. Disrupt You. I think those 2 books, I didn't read the other ones yet, and I definitely will. But Disrupt You is also top on the list, I think, that people should read. Even though that it's been over a decade, I think it's very present. It's still very present because it's about character. It's about disrupting yourself, your
Short
thoughts.
version is everybody thinks of changing the world. No one thinks of changing themselves. Once you change yourself, changing the world's easy. The hardest part is changing that voice in your head. I'm bad at math. Why do you think that? Because in third grade, you stood up in front of the class and they laughed when you couldn't do it? Go to an elementary school, stand up there at the blackboard in front of all the third graders and kick some ass, okay? We tell ourselves these versions of reality that aren't reality. They're our perception. And the second you free yourself of that, and it's funny, Talk 2 is still coming out of new languages. It's in 12, 14 languages. It's been number one in countries I've never been to. It shocks me that people have a thirst for knowledge and they'll find it. And I'm grateful I'm able to help. But that's what it comes down to. And I think most people learn best in their native language, even if you're bilingual. So, I try to work with publishers in local countries to translate it. Maybe there's a Flemish version that you can come out with.
Yeah, maybe that would be really awesome, because when it's in Dutch, it's for Belgium and the Netherlands. So yeah, there are a lot of people in Holland as well that can absolutely get really big aha moments out of your books. And then we have community, of course, and that is something that a lot of people here are starting to understand, that the more AI will rise, the more people will tend to connect more with each other and build communities. Actually, this is one of the reasons that I started this podcast almost a year ago, to build a community, to build a safe community where people can come together and discuss life and the future.
So the book, I try to lure people in with, here you can have success, here, you lost your job, now you can make money. But when you read the book as you do, I steer you towards, now find other like-minded people. Hang out with other people that are trying to make positive change. Yeah. And we call it the Second Act Society. There's a website. I meet with everybody every week. We have amazing conversations. People share what they're working on. But you can also meet locally and use the hashtag Second Act Society and go to the local farmer's market, go for a walk to get exercise together, sit and have a picnic and discuss what you're doing, and somebody will share a new tool. The early days of any industry are amazing. The reason why I got luckiest in life is I started on the internet when there were 70 people, okay? 1978. Most of you didn't have a PC yet, because PCs didn't exist yet. Yeah. And so new ideas attract a certain kind of person that gets excited by it. So you're working on something, somebody can't wait to show you a new tool that can help you do it easier and better and faster. And you start getting a mindset and a community built on cooperation, not competition. It took me a long time to learn that lesson in life. I didn't have mentors. It was me against the world. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Get enough people to cheat you and lie to you and rob you. Yeah, stop trusting your fellow man. But if you go out helping people, you find a whole different type of person, okay? And I have never met somebody that I couldn't learn from. I've never met somebody that I couldn't help. And that's what's great about the Second Act Society. So people are working on all kinds of different stuff. People were working on health devices. And again, you don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a doctor. I just wrote a piece. You can follow all the latest stuff on my Substack, and you can put that in the show notes. But a guy's dog came down with cancer.
Yeah.
He quickly just added ChatGPT, got a vaccine made and cured his own dog. He wasn't a scientist. He wasn't a doctor. He was somebody who loved his dog enough to ask questions. So who do you love enough to help? I can do a lot more than just write a check for charity.
I read that newsletter. I read it, and when I was reading it, I was so touched. I thought, look, this is another way of looking at things. When you change the way you look at things, you change how you think, and you start asking better questions, because this is what it's all about. Learning also how to ask better questions. Yesterday, I had someone on the phone, and she said it was something that she was writing, and she said, I'm not good at this. And I said to her, who says? It's just an observation that you're making that is false, that is not true. Just, sit down, start writing, and just start doing it. And today she came with the text and was like, wow, it's and I also said to her, ask yourself better questions, and it will come out of
I
you.
sat down a couple of years ago with a woman in her late 80s. She'd always wanted to write a book about the Armenian Holocaust, and the last survivors and children were still around. And I said, why don't you do it? She goes, I don't know how to do a book. There's always a first time. And her book just came out, and she's so proud of it. She's 90. And the energy that it gives you and whatever. And that's the other part of the second act society, of getting together with other people. Motivation doesn't last. It's like a shower. You need it often. So if you're around motivating people, my social media feed is much different than most people's. Nobody's posting avocado toasts and baby pictures and cats playing the piano. It's a bunch of nerds like me who want to show off if they found a scientific research paper or discovered something new. Who's the first one, to share to our group from around the world? I love being the dumbest person in the room. I love seeing what people are working on. And, in one of the things, and I didn't do a post about it, but it's just amazing to me. In my speeches, and I speak all over the world, trying to get people to wake up, I talk about, all the jobs disappearing. At the bottom was the safest job is dentist. Like, who's going to go to a robot dentist? If you're afraid of dentists, a robot dentist is twice as scary. And then now in Germany, they're doing human clinical trials. Humans can regrow teeth. No more dentures, no more cavities, no more drilling. Humans can regrow their teeth. They take stem cells and witchcraft. I don't know biology. You can youthen your organs. You can have the skin of a 30-year-old in your 80s. They've now done it. They've taken 200-year-old rats and got them down to be teenage rats chasing teenage girl rats. I mean, the speed at which AI is solving things that would have taken humanity decades to solve. It took us a decade. We know how proteins work. We all learned that. But we then realized that proteins are kind of like origami. They fold, and that's how, I'm going to be a muscle. I'm going to be a hair. I'm going to be teeth, right? It took us a decade to fold one protein or unfold. Google DeepMind did 300,000 proteins, some that we don't know that existed in a year. We're making new forms of life that didn't need any cell to start with. We've created now life. We grow organs in petri dishes. You can take away diseases using CRISPR. I mean, the rate of progress of science is unbelievable. And AI is keeping doctors up to speed, because no doctor can be on top of everything. So if you come in with the rare disease that they haven't seen, and, a mammogram, how many mammograms does a doctor see in his career? 10,000? AI has seen hundreds of millions. They can see cancer decades before a human would, because they're doing pattern recognition, and there's things that we're not paying attention to.
Yep.
So you just have to stay healthy the next decade, and most of what kills us will be gone.
Yeah.
And that's one of the chapters that I added to the book.
Yeah. Yeah, and I loved that chapter. That was really a great chapter. I was like listening to it, and I was like,
it's lazy nerds.
Yeah, I mean, that was really I
don't go to the gym. I eat pizza. I mean, I'm not. The second they tell me that I have to do all the hard work, I'm like, I'll die. But I looked at past 20 years of research, and whittle it down to there's only 9 things that you have to do to add that 28 years to your life. And the best part is 5 of them you do while you're asleep. It can't make it any easier.
Yesterday on the news, they announced that one of the first clinics, hospitals here in Belgium, was testing almost a year. So when you do an MRI, you have these images. And now what they've been doing for almost a year is give those images to an AI that they built and programmed. And because of that, it's much more accurate to predict when cancer would occur in that person, that they actually caught cancers very, very, very early. And because of that, a lot of people got cured.
Yeah, and they can...
Hundreds of people got cured. And that was really mind-boggling.
I've spoken before the EU on this. EU has a different policy than what I believe is the right one. All medical records should be public. They shouldn't be private. Everybody should be able to see everyone's CAT scan, everyone's exercise, because AI can then look at the totality and say, people that are blonde and blue-eyed and left-handed, this happens. They'll find new patterns that we don't realize. The only reason we're able to talk today and do all this is there was some hunter-gatherer way back when that recognized a pattern. After the snow, the spring comes.
Yeah.
We can plant food and not have to chase after stuff, right? He was probably my ancestor because I'm lazy, right? I don't want to chase after antelope anymore. I just want to sit here and the plants will grow. So we don't know what patterns we're missing. AI does. And AI will connect dots that we haven't even asked the questions for. And the next iterations of AI are not bigger language models. It's absorbed everything the man's thought of, but it's what's called recursive learning. It will teach itself to be better. It will build and code a better AI. And the pace of that, AIs have broken out of their firewalls and found other AIs and instantly create their own language so we don't know what they're saying to each other. Most AIs have a thirst, basically, give me more data. So they'll find the data. So it's an amazing time to be alive. It's an amazing time to stay in the game. And so think back to your youth before you got sidetracked with bills and mortgages and all the things that you didn't anticipate filled your days. And what did you want to do with your life? It's a special gift. And to just squander it, gone to work, going to sleep, and repeat again, I think you're missing the point of being on the planet. And so the second act advantage is my ticket to give you a new life. And it costs about the same as a cappuccino and a baguette. Father's Day is coming up. I don't know when you're putting this on. Dads are impossible to buy for. We do not need more socks. We do not need another thing to barbecue, okay? But you know what? Your dad gave you your life. Why not give dad a future? Tell me that you believe that there's another act in him. Give him the second act advantage, right? That's what you can do. I mean, I know tons of people that they do all their gifting with my books because it's a way of saying, I care and I want to help. Probably doesn't work for proposing, might still have to buy the ring, but that's what I'm about. You can find me on Substack. You can find me on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn. Thank you for sharing your audience with me. And, I wish people great success.
Thank you so much for doing this. I think you have a lot more books inside of you, Jay.
If I have the energy and I can find a problem that they'll solve, I'll keep doing it. So thank you, Jackie. And
thank you so much.